So we have a major rumor that is coming out from the Disney sector right now, and it's something that honestly I saw coming a mile away. You could just see by the way this man acts and by the way that he talks that this wouldn't surprise anybody if this was actually real. But at the end of the day, this is a rumor. We're gonna take it with a grain of salt. But apparently, the new rumor states that Kevin Feige, yes, Mr. Kevin Feige, Marvel himself, is apparently going to abandon Marvel Studios because he wants to be number two at Disney. That's a new rumor that's come out. Now, whether that's true or not, again, take it with a grain of salt. But something like this would not surprise me to be true because you can just see that Kevin Feige is all about that business. So the article says, from Bounding Into Comics, a new rumor claims that Kevin Feige is trying to move up at the Walt Disney Company and become the number two in charge at the company. Now, don't forget, guys, Bob Iger is looking for a successor. He has 2 years at the company left, at least according to his contract. In those 2 years, they gave him those 2 years with the idea that he is supposed to train a successor. Would it really shock anybody that he's going to train Kevin Feige, who is all about the ideologies that they spin over at Disney? It wouldn't shock me at all. But again, it is a rumor. It says this new rumor comes from the Ankler editor Jeff Snyder during an appearance on John Rocha's The Hot Mic Show. Snyder believes that Feige will leave Marvel Studios following the release of Fantastic Four and the X-Men into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He says, I do think you will get the Fantastic Four off the ground, you'll get X-Men off the ground, and then you leave. He goes on to indicate that running Lucasfilm might be a possibility before stating, I've heard that the job that Kevin had always coveted was that of Alan Bergman, who was basically like the number two at the studio. Snyder continued, I think that may be a Kevin's thing, being the creative, absolute head of the studio, who can put his fingerprints on everything and leave maybe the business stuff to someone in the Iyer type of the seat who has to oversee our parks and cruise ships and all this type of crap. And Kevin would just love to be the top of Disney, period, for creative. Snyder later asserts, basically what I'm getting at is that Feige wants to be the number two at Disney. He aspires to be more than the head of a label, not only that of Marvel's a label, but is also a full-blown studio as is Lucasfilm. But you know what I mean. Lucasfilm, Marvel, they still at the end of the day report to Disney. Those are Disney owned, he added. Now, again, it wouldn't shock me that this is the case. Bob Iger training Kevin Feige wouldn't shock me at all. He is going to be looking for a successor that's going to be able to take over the number one spot. So even though he may train Kevin Feige, and let's say Kevin Feige does get the number two spot, I highly doubt he's going to go quickly, or at least that quickly, into the number one spot. So Bob Iger probably would train someone else to take over as the number one spot with the idea that Kevin Feige will take over for number two. He could be training the current number two right now to be number one for all we know. And then Kevin Feige takes over in that number two spot. It says, interestingly, a previous rumor from May 2021 from Variety's Brent Lang and Matt Donnelly claimed that Feige was perfectly content to stay at Marvel Studios and had no ambition to go to Lucasfilm and lead Star Wars. The two claim insiders say that Feige is fully committed with his Marvel duties and that he has no ambition to lead Lucasfilm or take more of a role. This report from Variety also noted several Disney insiders expressed doubts that Feige, Kennedy, Morris, and Doctor would be willingly to report to anyone other than Bergman. They also argue that the heads of the Marvel, Pixar, and Lucasfilm brands have their own artistic chops, making it unnecessary to find one studio executive to serve as creative ringmaster. Well, that's why you got to take these rumors with a grain of salt, you know what I mean? Because you'll hear one rumor saying one thing, and then you'll hear the total opposite rumor, like not even a couple weeks ago or a couple months later, you'll hear a total opposite rumor come out from a completely different sector of entertainment. It says the timing of this rumor is rather interesting as Marvel Studios is in a downward trend and there does not appear to be any light at the end of a very dark tunnel. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is performing worse than any other Marvel Studios releases last year when it comes to box office grosses. The film has only grossed $127 million domestically so far and a meager $287 million globally. Now, again, we're in a world where 287 million is considered meager. It's like, I mean, I guess compared to the other Marvel movies, it definitely is doing the worst. Because if you look at this chart right here, the trends are just abysmal. Because Marvel films drop off extremely hard. Marvel films drop off very, very hard. And I don't know why they chose Ant-Man as the starting film to start off Phase 5 and to introduce Kang in the movies. I just think it's a little weird. But again, this is what we have to deal with when it comes to Marvel now. On top of the Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania performing worse than anything Marvel released in 2022, the 2022 releases had anemic box office hauls, as well as especially compared to their predecessors, with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness being the exception. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever only brought in 854 million compared to Black Panther's 1.3 billion global gross, and that's not even adjusting for inflation. Exactly. So you got to imagine 1.3 billion, however long ago Black Panther first came out, would be way more money in today's money. Thor Ragnarok also had a higher global gross compared to Thor Love and Thunder, bringing in 850 million compared to Love and Thunder's 760 million global gross. This is also without adjusting for inflation. And another thing too, when it comes to Black Panther, you got to remember Black Panther, they purposely kept in the movie theaters forever. They kept that movie in the movie theaters forever, long past what they normally would for a Marvel movie, simply because they wanted to make sure they get as much money as they possibly could from Black Panther to make it look as good as they possibly can. Of note, Thor Love and Thunder's production budget is estimated to be 70 million more than Thor's Ragnarok. Not only are Marvel Studios films seeing significant declines at box offices, but the more recent films are also some of the worst reviewed films from audiences. Well, that's true. And they love to claim that the films are being reviewed bombed because that's the easy way out, but let's be real, these movies are just trash, man. They are nowhere near as good as they used to be. And I have another video coming out talking about the CGI and how the money for the CGI department was completely washed away and given to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, that the other movies suffered because of that fact, and it's not surprising. Because if you look at any of these TV shows, if you look at any of these movies that came out recently, a lot of them are terrible looking compared to how they used to look in the first three phases of Marvel. I mean, really god awful. Ant-Man Quantumania, for a movie that's predominantly CGI, is being destroyed cinematically. Like, just overall, the look of it is disgusting. You could just tell that there's just certain aspects of the movie that look fantastic. They're few and far between, but then most of it just looks trash, man. And there's no way that you can say that this is the same Marvel that was doing phase 1 to 3. There's no way. They're not putting the same effort. They're not putting the same money. You can see the cost cutting on screen right before your eyes. It's evident. It says on IMDb, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has a 6.5. That's the third worst rated Marvel Cinematic Universe film. It's only better than Thor Love and Thunder and Eternals, which are tied for the worst rated films, which are both receiving a 6.3. Other recent releases such as Black Widow, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Doctor Strange, and the Multiverse of Madness are in the bottom 10 rated films in IMDb. So again, Marvel has been taking hit after hit after hit after hit, and it's because they are not making movies to entertain you anymore. They are making movies to preach their message. This is something we talk about all the time, and you get a lot of people who are in the whole counterculture space who try to say, oh, you just want to say everything is woke because that's such the easy way to go. Tell me what the meaning of the word woke is. Yeah, you can't tell me, bro. And I'm like, seriously, man, you really defending these clowns? Really? That's where you want to sit? That's the hill you want to die on? You want to defend corporate media? Really? Okay. I mean, listen, you're more than welcome to do so, but that doesn't change anything that we're saying. People don't want this stuff. You can see in the actual metrics, you can see that people don't want this stuff, and they try to do everything they can to counter this, and they try to put out the best public figure that they can, but Ant-Man and Quantumania is going to fail, unfortunately, for that movie. It is not going to do as good as it should have or that it could have if they just would have put a little more effort into it. And you cannot make a movie that's 90+% CGI and lower the budget of CGI in that movie. You can't do it. But unfortunately, they did do it, and now they're suffering for that. But that was their choice, and because they need to cost cut because they're losing so much money, and especially since they're not releasing movies in China anymore as often as they were, they need to make up the money some way, somehow. And the only way to do so is by cutting costs dramatically on the domestic side of things. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.